Hello everyone, welcome to Thought Soup. This is part 2 of episode 5, so I guess episode 6 we could call it, and we're going to talk about ego. So we're going to continue from last week our conversation about ego and attempt to see what it is. So ego has very positive effects on our lives. This capacity, even for me to make this video and share it potentially with the world on a platform that's completely international, is amazing. And that's ego that made that possible. It's this awareness, this consciousness of itself that started improving upon what was. So technology as a whole is absolutely thanks to our ego, our self-awareness. So there's a lot of positive to ego. And it was necessary to go from being basically hunters and gatherers, very basic and primitive societies, to evolve to agriculture and learning how to make tools and always make better tools. More complex civilizations, science expanded as well, and so on and so forth. So that is all ego. So that's absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. But that's not all ego is, because if it were only that, we could say, well, there's no problem. Ego is also the one that gets offended. Very common now in the Commonwealth countries like Commonwealth and also the US. So I would say Anglo-Saxon countries. Everybody's getting offended for something or another. It's quite hilarious. It seems like a bunch of children, really. Offended because of this, offended because of that. He said this, she said that. There's no she, there's no it. Lots of rubbish going on. That's all ego. That's all ego. So what gets offended is ego. The wanting more. Very egoic. You have this, well, you're happy for a while, but then, well, maybe we could get more, couldn't we? And you get more, and then it's not enough, and you want more, and it's not enough, and you want more, and you want more, and it's never ending. I want a house, I want 2 houses, I want 3 houses, I want a house here and there, and each one I want a car, and then I want 2 cars, and I want a motorcycle, and then I want this, and I want, it's just more, 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 more. That's completely egoic. Ego is by nature never satisfied. It always seeks improvement. How can I better myself? On a spiritual level, it's a complete nonsense. On a relative level, we can understand it. I want to get better at this and it's very all well and good. But for the purpose of this this video, it's absolute nonsense. So that's what ego is. It's always wanting more, always having goals, and having the fundamental question of, who am I? That's a fundamental question for all of humanity since we were self-aware. Who am I? And so we're looking for answers. We're looking for this. And we make up all kinds of stories. That's all egoic. All of it. The self-image we have, the self-image we project, the efforts we make to keep all that intact are immense. Immense. Women have to deal with this in our society enormously in terms of appearance. Men have to maintain that also in terms of appearance. Like everybody has to, we're all maintaining these crazy objectives and goals and appearance, and I must do this by the time I'm this old, and I must do that by the time I'm that age, and all that. It's crazy. And it's all egoic. It's invented. It's in our mind. It's not real. And those are like prisons. But they're mostly self-made, certainly self-maintained. We maintain the prison. We make sure all the bars are free from rust. We don't want that prison to break, because what could be on the other side? Freedom is actually pretty scary when we're talking on that level. So that's what ego is. Never happy, always wanting more. Now, throughout history, there has been some humans that went in a different direction, and they transcended ego. It happened many times to many humans. And so we can see how life changes when there's no ego involved. Everything becomes much more easy, there's much more tranquility. There's very little stress. And if there is stress, it's short-lived, because stress has its necessity in life. It keeps us alive often. But having an ego that's, call it dormant, inexistent, because in actual fact, ego does not exist. That's only ego can think that ego exists. So I'm contradicting myself here. I'm talking about ego for 2 videos, and at the end I'm telling you it doesn't even exist, because it doesn't. It's a little bit like Santa Claus. I like to give that example. So all our young life, hopefully, we believe in Santa Claus. Santa Claus is going to come, and it's wonderful and brings presents, and it's so magical. But then at a certain age, we realize, we don't only understand, but we realize that Santa Claus actually never existed. It was a story. In the same way, when you understand first, and then you realize, I'll make a video about that, the difference between understanding and realization. They're very different. Very different. We can understand something in the mind, but we haven't realized it. So we don't really know what's going on. But we understand it because we're smart creatures. So when we finally realize that Santa Claus is not real, you can never go back, can you? You can never start again, oh, I'm going to believe in Santa Claus. No, I'm going to go to the store and wrap it up and put it under the tree. That's reality. Well, when you're without ego, that's how life is. But it's wonderful because there isn't all the prisons I was talking to you about. There's no more prison of who you need to appear, of who you need to project, of who you need to improve, of who am I. All these questions just disappear like magic, disappear completely. So in conclusion, we can say that ego has been necessary for our species to go from a very primitive and difficult survival to a much easier one, we can say, at least in some parts of the world. We can say that it's made life more comfortable. We have, in some parts of the world, we have food, we have water, we have energy. Our life is much easier. So ego was necessary for that. But now we're getting to a point, in my opinion, that ego is not necessary anymore because it's killing us. We're killing each other. We're killing everything. We're scared of everything and everyone. We're extremely, extremely aggressive. And aggression is only fear. Only ego has fear. And it has a place in this. Obviously, if you're in the forest and there's a big lion, if you're not scared, you're going to be dead. So being scared is good, but there's a place for it. And I think globally, we need now to go beyond ego. It is a little bit one of the reasons why I'm doing these videos. Because, and there's a lot of people who are beyond ego today, lots, and who are sending a message like this, just to say, hey, there is something else, there's something deeper. Don't believe everything your brain tells you. Don't believe 80% of it or 90% of it. Your brain is a machine that produces thoughts, as I said in the previous video. So I think now the time has come to go beyond ego. Ego has served us well, but now it's time to let it go on the side and proceed to our next step in evolution. Because if we don't do this, well, our survival is absolutely not sure, in my opinion. Well, that's it for the ego section of these videos. We'll probably come back to it again and again. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's useful. And we'll see you next week. As always, I don't know what the title for next week is, what the topic, but I'll tell you this right now. Oh, it was the segue. It's the difference between knowing something and realizing something. So the difference between knowledge and realization. That'll be the topic for next week. We'll see you then. Bye.